My girlfriend blames me for her infidelity. I was shocked to learn the reason for her infidelity and her hypocrisy. She admitted to sleeping with him and said it was my fault. She told me I was too ordinary, not exciting enough, and that she needed more. She did not apologize. She did not show regret. She stood there and justified everything now. She was telling me that my personality was the reason she cheated. She blamed me for her decision. At that moment, I realized that the relationship was over. I met her 2 years ago at a friend's party. She was loud, confident, and always surrounded by people. She had a way of making everyone around her feel included, and I was drawn to that. I have always been quiet and reserved, so being with someone like her felt exciting. She pushed me to go out more, meet new people, and experience things I usually avoided in the beginning. Everything seemed perfect. She liked that I was different from the people she usually surrounded herself with. She told me she felt safe with me, that I balanced her out. I believed we worked well together. She made me more outgoing, and I gave her stability. She loved big groups, meeting new people, and going to parties. I did not, but I adapted because I wanted to make her happy. I went with her to clubs and gatherings even when I felt out of place. I told myself that being with her was worth the discomfort. At first, she appreciated it. She would introduce me to people, encourage me to talk more, and reassure me when I felt awkward, but over time, things changed. She started making little comments about how I needed to be more confident, how I should loosen up. She compared me to her friends and laughed when I said I was fine the way I was. I ignored it. I told myself she was just trying to help me grow. I did not realize then that she was slowly losing respect for me. First, I didn't think anything of it when she mentioned his name. She was always meeting new people. She had more friends than I could count, and she thrived on making new connections. It was one of the things I liked about her. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. But over time, he started coming up in conversation more and more. If we watched a show, she would say he recommended it. If I made a joke, she would mention how he had said something similar. If she talked about her day, his name always appeared. When I noticed it happening too often, I asked her about him. She laughed and said he was just a friend. She said I was being ridiculous. Then, he started appearing in her life in ways I couldn't ignore. She started going out more but stopped inviting me. At first, she would ask if I wanted to come, and even though I didn't always enjoy loud clubs or big social events, I went because it was important to her. Then, one day, she stopped asking. I found out she had been out all night only because I saw pictures online. When I asked her why she didn't tell me, she said she assumed I wouldn't want to go. When I told her I didn't like being left out, she got irritated. She told me I was acting controlling, that I was suffocating her. She said I needed to let her live her life. She accused me of being boring, of holding her back. She said she wanted a boyfriend who could keep up with her. I didn't argue. I tried to be more understanding. I told myself she just needed space. But things only got worse. She became secretive. She was always on her phone, but if I walked into the room, she would lock the screen. If I asked who she was texting, she would get defensive and accuse me of invading her privacy. She started spending nights out, claiming she was with friends, but when I asked who, she would give vague answers. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it every time she turned away from me, every time she dismissed my concerns. But I didn't want to believe it. I told myself that she wouldn't do something like that to me. Was wrong. The more time passed, the more I felt like I was on the outside of my own relationship. She no longer made an effort to include me in her plans. I would find out she had gone to a party or dinner only after she posted about it online. When I asked why she didn't tell me, she would shrug and say she forgot. She never forgot to invite him, though. Her phone became something she guarded. She would smile at her screen, typing quickly, but the moment I walked into the room, she would turn it over or lock it. If I asked what was so funny, she would roll her eyes and tell me it wasn't important. The excuses became repetitive. She was just talking to friends. It was nothing. I was imagining things. I wasn't. The shift in how she saw me became obvious. She no longer looked at me the way she used to. She stopped holding my hand when we walked together. She stopped asking about my day. Conversations became short and dismissive. Anytime I tried to bring up my feelings, she would shut me down. She would call me dramatic, tell me I was being paranoid, say I was too sensitive. One night, I told her I didn't like how things were going. I said I felt like I was being pushed aside. She took it too personally. She didn't try to understand. Instead, she turned it around on me. She accused me of being too ordinary, of not making an effort to be fun. She told me I wasn't cool enough for her lifestyle. Hearing that made me pause. The word cool seemed so childish. It didn't feel like something an adult in a relationship would say, but she was serious. She looked at me with disappointment, like I had failed some test I didn't even know I was taking. I told her that was ridiculous. But she wasn't done. That was when she said it. That was when she admitted to what I had feared all along. Maybe that's why I slept with him. It's your fault. No hesitation. No regret. Just a casual statement, as if she was explaining something obvious. I stood there, unable to respond. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way she said it, as if I had made her do it. As if she had no choice. As if my personality had pushed her into another man's bed at that moment. I knew nothing I said would change anything. The relationship wasn't just broken. It had been broken for a long time. And now, there was nothing left to save after she admitted to cheating. I waited for something. An apology, an explanation, any sign that she felt guilty. But nothing came. She stood there, arms crossed, as if she had just settled an argument and was waiting for me to agree. She truly believed she had done nothing wrong that I asked when it started. She didn't hesitate. It had been going on for months. Every time she went out without me, every time she dismissed my concerns, every time she told me I was overreacting, she had already made her choice. She had already decided that I wasn't enough. She didn't just blame me for what happened. She acted like she had been trying to help me. She said she had wanted me to be more open, more social, more confident. She said she had been patient, but I refused to change. She told me she wanted a boyfriend who could match her energy, someone who could handle big groups, spontaneous trips, loud parties. She framed it like she had no other choice but to look elsewhere. She made it sound like she had been doing me a favor all along. That pushing me out of my comfort zone, forcing me into clubs and parties, encouraging me to loosen up, was for my own good. That if I had just changed the way she wanted, we wouldn't be here. It wasn't enough that she had cheated. She wanted me to believe it was my fault for not being the person she thought I should be. I could have argued, but I didn't. There was no point. If she had wanted to work things out, she wouldn't have cheated in the first place. If she had any respect for me, she wouldn't have stood there blaming me for her choices. I told her it was over. She shrugged. She barely reacted. She asked if she could stay at a friend's place for a few days while she figured things out. She didn't even pretend to be upset. She didn't ask me to reconsider. It was like she had already moved on, and I was the last thing she needed to get rid of. She packed a small bag. I watched as she grabbed her essentials, her phone charger, a few changes of clothes, her makeup. She told me she would come back later for the rest of her things. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked out. The moment the door closed behind her, the apartment fell silent. The kind of silence that made the room feel empty in a way it hadn't before. For the first time in a long time, I was alone. I expected to feel devastated. I expected the weight of everything to crash down on me. But I didn't feel anything at first. Just exhaustion. I sat down and stared at nothing, replaying the last few months in my head. Every argument, every excuse, every moment I had ignored my own instincts. The worst part wasn't that she cheated. The worst part was realizing that this breakup had been coming for a long time. The relationship had ended long before she admitted it. I just hadn't been willing to see it. I stayed up late that night, not because I couldn't sleep, but because I didn't know what came next. The life I had built with her was gone. The routine, the expectations, the idea that we were building something together. It had all been an illusion. Now, I had to figure out what life looked like without her, and for the first time, I realized that might not be a bad thing. She left, but it wasn't the end. The next day, she texted me. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an acknowledgement of what she had done. She asked if we could talk. I didn't answer. A few hours later, she called. I let it ring. She called again. By the evening, she showed up at the apartment. I didn't let her in at first. She stood at the door, telling me I was acting childish, that we needed to talk like adults. I didn't want to hear anything she had to say, but I also wanted to know why she was still here, why she suddenly cared. I opened the door. She looked frustrated, not sad. She said she didn't want to throw away everything we had. She said she had made a mistake, but that it wasn't as serious as I was making it out to be. She admitted to sleeping with him, but she framed it as something that just happened. She blamed the situation, her emotions, her need for excitement. She didn't say she regretted it. She didn't say she was sorry for hurting me. She just wanted me to understand why she did it, as if I needed to accept her reasons and move on. She told me we could fix things, that she had only wanted me to change because she believed in me, because she thought I had potential. She said she never wanted to hurt me, that she only wanted to push me to be stronger, more open, more adventurous. I listened. Not because I believed her, but because I wanted to see if she had anything real to say. She didn't. It was the same as before. She thought she had done nothing wrong. She thought I was the problem. I told her there was nothing to fix. She refused to accept that. She stayed for hours, trying different angles. She got angry, accusing me of overreacting, saying people made mistakes and that I was being stubborn. Then she tried to be softer, saying she missed me, that she didn't want to lose me. When that didn't work, she switched back, saying I was proving her point, that I was too rigid, too unwilling to adapt. She wanted control of the situation, just like she always had. She wanted me to believe that if I changed, if I became the person she wanted me to be, everything would go back to normal. But I wasn't going to give her that. She left that night, but not for good. She would come back again. She wasn't ready to let go, but neither was I. Not because I wanted her back, but because I needed to see this through to the very end. She didn't disappear. She couldn't accept that I had walked away without a fight. At first, she tried to talk to me like nothing had happened, She sent messages asking if we could meet up to clear the air. She told me she had been thinking and realized she had handled things badly. She said the cheating was a mistake, but she still avoided taking real responsibility. She framed it as something that just happened because she had been frustrated with me. She wanted me to believe that if I had been different, none of this would have happened. I ignored her. I had nothing left to say. That didn't stop her. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, knocking for nearly an hour. I didn't open the door. She sent me long texts afterward, switching between anger and guilt, telling me I was throwing away something special, that I wasn't even giving her a chance to fix things. When I still didn't answer, she tried another approach. She contacted my friends. She told them I was shutting her out unfairly, that she just wanted to talk. She made it sound like I was being immature, like I was the one who refused to communicate. A few of them reached out to check on me, but no one took her side. They had seen enough. Her last attempt was the most desperate. She told me I was proving her right, that I was acting exactly the way she always feared I would, that I was weak, that I wasn't capable of dealing with conflict, that I would never grow into the person she wanted me to be. She said I was making a mistake by refusing to fight for her, that I would regret letting her go. That was the moment I saw her for exactly who she was. She had never loved me for who I was. She had loved the idea of changing me, shaping me into someone she could respect. And when I refused, when I showed that I had a choice in the matter, she couldn't handle it. I didn't answer after that. She finally stopped. No more texts. No more phone calls. No more waiting outside my door, not because she had accepted the breakup, but because she knew she had lost, and that, more than anything else, was what she couldn't stand. She was gone, but the damage stayed with me. The silence after her last attempt to reach out should have felt like relief, but it didn't, not right away. I kept expecting another message, another knock at my door, another way for her to push herself back into my life. But nothing came. For the first time in a long time, I had to sit with my own thoughts without her voice in my ear, telling me what I needed to change, how I needed to be better. I thought about all the times she had tried to mold me into someone else, all the times I had let her push me past my own boundaries just to make her happy. She had always said she wanted me to be stronger, more confident, more open. But what she really meant was that she wanted me to be someone else. It was strange, realizing how much of myself I had given up just to keep a relationship that was never built to last. She hadn't wanted a partner. She had wanted a project. And when I didn't turn into the version of me she had imagined, she found someone who already fit the role. I should have felt humiliated. I should have felt broken, but I didn't. The longer I spent away from her, the more I realized that losing her wasn't a loss at all. It was the only way I could actually start figuring out who I was without her voice in my head. I wasn't the kind of person who thrived in big crowds. I didn't need to be cool. I didn't need to impress people to feel valuable. And I definitely didn't need someone who saw me as a problem to fix. It took time, but eventually, I stopped checking my phone for messages that wouldn't come. I stopped thinking about whether she was with him or if she had already moved on, because it didn't matter. She was out of my life, and for the first time since meeting her, I finally felt like myself again.